to postpone the date from 2009 to about 2011 now?
Instead of answering it directly, how much of role we played, let me first stress the importance of the role that has to be played by the citizens. These are all matters which require the approval of citizens at the planning stage in terms of its necessity, in terms of its routing, in terms of its direction, all these things. Unfortunately now what has happened is that just because the ex-Prime Minister, who is a very influential man in that area, expressed his displeasure over that, they postponed it by 2 years. In these 2 years, at least they should have taken the opinion of the citizens also around that area. They would have got an opinion that it is not required there. I am a resident of that area. I use that road at least half a dozen times every day. The peak hour, the total length of peak hour in that area on those two roads is not more than 3.5 hours. And the signal is doing admirably well. We may have to wait for 2 minutes and the signal is fine. So it is not a big problem, only for about 3.5 hours. The rest of the time, it is not at all a problem.
So these are some of the measures that we spoke about. Now, will the citizens continue to fight against tree felling? How strong are you? How united are you?
We are definitely going to continue our efforts to see that this tree felling is stopped, not only at Devagowda Patrol Bank, but all over the city. As a matter of policy, they must reconsider the decision to fell trees anywhere in Bangalore. In fact, we are insisting that a system of public hearing should take place, not public, so-called public consultations, where the authorities just invite a few people whom they want and conduct a sham of a public hearing. Public hearing is where every citizen gets a right, a mandated right to express his or her opinion, and the authorities will have to come out with reasons for rejecting those things, and those reasons must be available in the public domain. Then it will make the bureaucrats and the politician more accountable. Today, once he gets elected for 5 years, he feels he's not accountable at all to the public. You should see the way they talk. Just wait for another 1.5 years when the election is nearing, they will change that tone. This is what has been happening. So we don't want that. We want more participatory democracy to be there than the referendum democracy is. That is what we are aiming at. We are certainly going to insist for the holding of public hearings on all issues, important issues like tree felling and so many other facts like water, solid waste management, all these things. And only after you get proper public opinion, evaluate it and submit it to an expert committee, and the experts come out with a really feasible project which has got the buy-in from the citizens, they should implement it. It is very essential. The other question that you asked, how united you are? Yes, in many areas we are united. For example, in Padmanabhanagar, our Federation of India is a very strong body. It is a apex body of about 35 resident welfare associations in that area, and we do represent a significant portion of the citizens' views. We will certainly see to it that we interact with the politicians and the authorities and try to drive home the point that it is a futile exercise and waste of scarce resources, which is not required at this point.
Okay, it's not required at this point in time. Welcome, Professor Radhakrishna. Thank you for joining us. How important is this flyover next to the Devagowda Patrol Bank from your perspective?
I will not focus only on Devagowda Patrol Bank and the flyover. How important these flyovers are is a question in the city. Unfortunately, as our friend just now told us that we have a sham of a participatory democracy. In the name of development, we would like to consider only two people who use their fast motors to acquire more wealth and through wealth power. Unfortunately, in our country, what's happening is the ruthlessness of the state power. The blind state power, I'm not talking about any political party, reflected through the bureaucracy, many times it doesn't understand what is development. Development does not mean only the widening of the road, the flyovers, etc., etc., etc. And how can we on earth complain about the traffic jam when I own a motor car? I travel in a bus, I make use of the fast moving vehicle and then say that for the convenience of me, the trees will have to be felled. When I am living in a big city like Bangalore, I will have to adjust myself mentally to the situation. And there may be a section of people demanding that they need to go to their workplace faster. That's understood. But there are umpteen number of people whose lives are attacked by this fastness. They would like to live a relaxed, quiet life, and they would like to live in a comfortable, when I say comfortable, environmentally comfortable zones. But unfortunately what's happening, especially in Bangalore, look at the ruthlessness of the whole situation today. It is not only that they were got a petrol bunk. And today I read it in the newspaper, there are 4 or 5 roads are going to be widened. And there are several people, take for example Avenue Road. There are several people who have been living in this particular place for centuries today. It has got a cultural rooting, cultural issues there. It's not just actually developmental issues alone. Take for example Padmanabha Nagar, that ring road, the inner ring road. Years together people have been living there. Not suddenly because there is an influx of people and things like that. Well, the people who influx like that also should understand. I do not know whether they demand that the government has the government reflected through bureaucracy. I don't blame the politicians at all. It is the bureaucratic mechanizations in the focusing on the so-called development is actually maybe misleading the political people also. And there is a whole lot of contracts, money, and all those things are involved. And the people are tempted by telling that they are transferable development rights, etc., etc. You know, when it is being implemented, what happens, you know, it does not mean that we should not develop infrastructural strengths in the society. We should. But if you go to a city like London, the roads are not that wider. People understand the whole thing. There are alternative methodologies available to manage this traffic, etc., etc. And I personally feel this flyover may not be the absolute necessity for this city. What we need is continuous water supply, waste management. We need waste management. The city has other priorities today. And today, because these flyovers, etc., are visible for us in the developmental issue, and the media also can focus and show how beautiful these roads are, etc., etc., people are forgetting about the real issues actually bothering the city. The enormous tonnage of waste getting generated
on a daily basis.
And one small rain in Bangalore chokes the entire city. Imagine that, my friend will agree with me that I am here for the last 50 years, that I never heard the floods in Bangalore, and people washed away in Bangalore and dying, the little children, the open manholes, and who has to focus on this? The city, once Lakshman Rao actually suggested, very eminent and able administrator, we have a lot of wide drainages, and we can even develop that as a communication link, having monorail on that. Keeping clean down and monorail on that. These possibilities we do not actually explore. Quick, visible, easily manageable issues our governance tackles. It's a very, very sad state of affairs. Not only they were got a petrol bunk,
but everywhere.
Sankey tank, for example.
All across the road.
Sankey tank. And already environmental devastation, you know very well what it has created. Bangalore temperature has increased thanks to this concrete, glass, flyover structures. And when we plan, we should plan for another 100 years, not just for another 10 years. I am sure when the flyover is completed, that flyover itself will be choked. Take for example that Hosur flyover. Hosur flyover now. With fanfare they have done it. And when they have done it, agreed. but they could have made it slightly wider. Our entire thing, whether it is development of railways or whatever it is very immediate issues are bothering us, not the long range issues.
Immediate issues are bothering us, but not the long-term issues. Like you rightly mentioned, I mean, plan for 100 years and not just for the next 5 to 10 years. We have a Bangalorean joining us over the phone line, Mukund from Jayanagar. Go ahead, Mukund, share your thoughts with us.
I really appreciate you for your good debate on this particular topic. The first culprit is BBMP. They formed their own rules that the CDP, BD and BBMP, the basement is meant for parking. Now they give the trade licenses and also allow commercial establishments to come up. See, the first thing is they have to curb that particular curbing of the commercial complexes without parking. The second thing is who decides the project. Whether the citizens of the locality decide the project or the BBMP engineer sitting in the Western Square. This has to be debated. This is not happening. There is no public consultation, no survey has been done by rural users, consultation with the users of the particular locality. It doesn't happen, and no DPR has been prepared for these projects. They will not show how this project is going to come up and what is going to impact on the quality of life. These are the few reasons that there is a total result on this particular project.
Right. Thank you so much, Mukund, for joining us there. Mukund from Jayanagar. And in fact, that is a very valid point that has been raised. Laws are in place. There are very stringent laws, in fact, but the laws are not being implemented. For instance, parking. If they have a building that is more than 3 stories in height or whatever it is, the BBMP or the laws are present where you should have this so much of a parking space that should be provided. Those laws are there, but it's not being implemented.
This is the problem. You see, non-implementation of laws and the collusion between the bureaucrats and the greedy builders, all these have resulted in a situation where there is too much of traffic. Once you tackle the root problem, now what they're doing is, it is like taking a painkiller for a fracture. It will only kill the pain for 5 hours or 6 hours the fracture needs. Set right the fracture, things will be alright. Until then, don't take up these projects. Let me take up on these certain issues raised by Professor. Look at Sheshadri Road.
Quickly, Mukund, because we're running out of time, so I'll give you 30 seconds.
Just look at Sheshadri Road, which was supposed to be a model for road widening, tree felling and all that justification. Today, Sheshadri Road is back to where it started, without trees. It had a lovely canopy of trees. I was studying there in UEC way back in '67. We used to walk on those streets not feeling the heat even for a single minute. Today, ask any Bangalorean to just walk from KR Circle to Maharani's College. He will not be able to stand the pollution, the heat and all these things. And the traffic is as bad, if not worse, than before. So this is not the solution.
That is not the solution. Professor, final thought from you. 30 seconds. What do you think is the solution?
So our entire approach for developmental activities is an attack on the Earth, Mother Earth. Whether it is postcode, whether it is nice, whether it is flyover, whether it is this and that, we should actually reflect on whether these are the immediate issues or not, or whether the exhibitionistic political gains, short term, and where the hidden hands of money power is also there, should be closed. And unfortunately, the citizenry, very conscious citizenry, organized, I agree, as our friend said, organized, but cannot withstand the ruthlessness of the state power that we have witnessed. The weakest of the government is the strongest when it has to fight with the people, the helpless people. Because the people have a lot of other priorities other than the civic issues too. And therefore, the governance, the bureaucracy has a greater responsibility to tell the political setup and say, no, this is not in the interest of the people. Unfortunately, what's happening is a lot of collusion. It's a lot of collusion. And there's a lot of secret understanding, and the hidden hands are there. You can find out that Vedanta issue in Orissa. So the entire country is today in a confused state of affairs when its development is concerned. Devagowda petrol bunk and the flyover is only a tip of the iceberg.
Okay.
And as my friend said about Sheshadri Road, look, you have just had a flyover from Anandrao Circle, and you had an underpass in Maharani Circle, and you dumped all the vehicles in the most chaotic and hopeless KR Circle. And today I had to spend half an hour just to cross that 1 kilometer. And that's development. And Devagowda petrol bunk flyover or any other flyover would result in the same chaotic situation.
Well, the situation is bad and every flyover will result in a chaotic situation is what Professor Radhakrishna is saying. I'd like to thank my guests, both of you. Mr. Mukund, thank you for joining us. Professor Radhakrishna, pleasure having you here. Well, I'm afraid that's all we have the time.